So I'll just talk for a little bit and then throw it open to your questions. Basically, I've been practicing homeopathy now for a long time, and I will just share a little bit of what I understood from this practice. So, the first question is that we want to help people to heal, to come back to health. So we need to understand what is health, what is disease, and how can healing happen. So in modern medicine, disease is a diagnosis. You have rheumatoid arthritis, or you have psoriasis, or you have tumor, or you have multiple sclerosis, or anything. So this is what modern medical idea is about disease, and therefore the treatment of disease is also based upon helping that specific organ or part. So if you have inflammation, you give anti-inflammatory. If you have pain, you give painkiller. If you have a tumor, you cut it out. So but this kind of approach is not long lasting. It's very temporary, and also we know that it causes so many side effects. All the medical procedures used, medicines used, they have their own side effects. So not only they don't have a long-term effect, but also they have side effects. So why is this so? Why does it not give a long-term solution? Because the reason is because the disease is not something that is a problem of the parts of the body, but it's something that affects the whole person. How do we know that? For example, if we take rheumatoid arthritis. So what is rheumatoid arthritis? It's the inflammation of the joints leading to deformities. But the cause of the inflammation is a autoimmune problem where the body's immune system is fighting its own self instead of attacking invaders such as bacteria or virus. The immune system turns against the body itself. Similarly, what's asthma? Asthma is a spasm of the lungs or the bronchi, causes breathlessness. So you give bronchodilators. Bronchodilators dilate the bronchi, you feel a little better, but as soon as the effect is over, back again. And what is asthma really? Asthma is a condition of allergy, where the bronchi are reacting to some allergen, dust, smoke, whatever. So they are overreacting. So what's asthma? Asthma is an overreaction of the immune system. Rheumatoid arthritis is a wrong reaction of the immune system. So where is the problem really? It's not in the lungs, it's not in the joints. It is in the immune system. We have to correct that basic issue there. But when we try to correct the immune system, there is another problem there. The problem is that the immune system itself is not an isolated entity. That's why immunosuppressant drugs such as corticosteroids, they also have temporary effect. Because the immune system also cannot be handled in an isolated manner. The immune system is connected with three other vital systems of the body. One is the mind, the second is the nervous system, the third is the hormonal system, and the fourth is the immune system. In modern medicine, it's called the psycho-neuro-endocrine immune system axis. And what is this axis? You can say it's like a cabinet of ministers, with the prime minister being the mind, and the other three systems being, let's say, the defense minister, the communication minister, and the home minister. So they form a government. This government has a policy. It has a specific way of dealing with situations. So you can have an aggressive government, you can have a pacifist government, you can have a slow government, a lazy government who does nothing. And if the government takes that particular stance, whatever it may be, then all the systems follow exactly that policy. So the defense minister is aggressive, the home minister is aggressive, the communication minister is aggressive, prime minister is aggressive. There's a whole state there. So in order to treat the aggressive immune system, we have actually to address the aggressive government, of which the mind, the nerves, the hormones, and the immune system are all an axis. And it's the disorder of this axis, this central controlling mechanism, this government, that causes problems all over the system. And they work in tandem. And all of them reflect the same idea, the same state, the same policy. That's where the two central concepts of homeopathy come into play. The first concept is holism. Holism means the person as a whole is sick. And the second is the concept of individualism, which means that each individual has his own specific state of being. And that state is reflected in his mind, in his dreams, in his behavior, in his perception. And that same state is reflected in his nerves, in his hormones, and his immune system. So when we study an individual, we study how he thinks, how he feels, how he reacts, what are his symptoms in the body, how he eats, how he drinks, how he sleeps, how he dreams, how he reacts to different things in the environment, like weather, like temperature, like whatever. And then studying the entire person as a whole and as an individual, then we need to match for him a remedy that exactly reflects his state, his music, what's playing within him. If we are able to mirror it from outside by the same thing, then healing happens. That's called the law of similars. That's the third tenet of homeopathy. Holism, individualism, and the law of similars. The remedy must match the disease within. For example, there's a famous story of the Buddha, and one lady brought her dead son to Buddha, and she said, "You are Buddha, you can make my son alive." He said, "No, I can't, sorry." She said, "No, I don't believe that. You can do it." So the Buddha didn't know what to do. So he thought of a very clever idea. He said to her, "You get me 1 grain of rice from the house of someone who has had no grief, and I will make your son come to life." So the woman went to each of her neighbors, said, Have you had any grief? They said, sit down, we will tell you. And they told the story of their grief and their bereavement and their loss. And she went to the second house and third house, and she heard the stories of each of them. And by the fifth house, she had given up all desire to get her son alive. Because Buddha had used the homeopathic principle. What he had used was that her grief was healed by showing the mirror by other people of their grief. So you can treat grief by the idea of let's go to a laughter club and laugh it out. Let's go to a comedy and have a good fun. But that's very short lasting. When you do the opposite, it's short lasting. When you mirror, when you reflect, then the effect is healing. And many different therapies follow a similar principle. Meditation is one of them. In meditation, what you do is bring your own suffering to your consciousness and look at it. In a way, mirror yourself. Music, really good music, also mirrors the song within. Good art or art therapy. Also, when you bring what's within into a paper and look at it, you're mirroring what's within you. It's this idea of mirroring that's central to homeopathy. The remedy mirrors the state that's within you. I can give you just an example that comes to my mind. I had seen a child, this was about 20 years ago. He had eczema from the top to the bottom, and he started to get the eczema when he was about 6 months old. And he came to me when he was about 13 or 14. And he had eczema for the whole of his life. They had been to, you can imagine, every skin specialist that they could find. There was not a square inch of his body that was clear. It was just, and when he was brought to me, he was brought almost being carried because he couldn't walk. Even the bottom of his soles, there was eczema, painful. He was just seated on the chair. He hadn't been to school for 6 months because he couldn't move. Now, what to do? So, I want to share with you the joy of practicing homeopathy actually. The homeopath has two main qualities, a good homeopath. One, that he knows nothing, he is stupid. And the second, that he should be very, very lazy. These are very important qualities to be a good homeopath. It's really fun because I don't think any other discipline requires you to be stupid and lazy except homeopathy. And what do I mean by that, stupid and lazy? Stupid means you know nothing, but you are going to listen exactly what the patient is experiencing. You're going to listen to the experience of that patient. How does he experience reality? What is it for him? What is his experience? Physically, emotionally, spiritually? And every aspect of it you're going to listen. And lazy, it means you don't bring your thinking into it. You don't bring your thought. You don't bring your theory or your prejudice. You're going to let your mind just observe and witness. It's so beautiful, this process. So I asked the mother, tell me what's happening. She says, well, he gets a lot of itching. This is common in eczema. You get itching. So tell me about the itching. And she says, well, the itching isn't continuous, but it comes. And when it comes with a violence. What do you mean by a violence? She says, he just scratch. And then, after 10 minutes, nothing. He's okay. And again, after maybe a couple of hours or after a day, nice. I asked the mother. Now describe to me exactly what happens during the time he scratches. So she said, he gets very violent, she says. He's saying to me, it's so bad, it's so bad. Give me a knife, I want to stab myself like this. Just I want to stab, I want to cut the head, do something. Right? He wants to hurt himself. So what else? Tell me more. My most favorite question in my practice. Tell me more. All my students know, they make fun of me. When I tell them anything, they say the same thing, tell me more. So, what does tell me more mean? Tell me more means you're not leading them anywhere. You don't want to know something specific. You want to know exactly what there is. So she says, tell me more. She said, well, this boy was a great devotee, admirer of a specific goddess. In India, we have many, many gods and goddesses. We say about 60,000 of them. So, he was a great devotee of one of the goddesses. And when this thing became too much, so he went and he tore the picture of the goddess, just tore it, the one that he was worshipping, day in and day out. He just tore the picture and he said, I have been such a loyal devotee of yours, and this is what you have done for me. He did that. So this is what happened to him in that. By this time, when we were talking, the boy started getting his itching paroxysm. Then, what he did, I observed, he took his mother's hand and started to twist her finger in a very painful and cruel way. And when she tried to stop him, he started to scratch her as badly as he could. So, this is the history that we could observe. I said, can you tell me a little bit more about this boy? He says, well, one thing, when his skin is kind of okay or when his state is okay, he used to love going to the water. He loved bathing. You couldn't get him out of the bathroom. He would be there for half an hour. But now he doesn't want to look at water. He doesn't want a drop of it on him. So he doesn't bathe for days together, months together. Oh, okay. So this was the story. Then I asked to the mother, what happened during pregnancy? She said, well, I was also in a very, very severe state because there was a due date of certain, let's say 10th August and now already 15th August, 18th August, 20th August, and there was no sign of the labor. And she said, I got so desperate. I went to the goddess and I said, what are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? I was very angry. So what to do now with this idea? So for an allopath, this is a case of eczema, right? It doesn't matter whether he tore the goddess picture or not. Apply steroids, and that's it. But the child is having this for 14 years. He has applied everything you can imagine. Doesn't go. And it doesn't go because it's founded upon the state which is within the child. And unless that state is corrected, unless that state is brought back to normalcy, to health, to balance, this child does not have a hope of recovery. And how can that be brought back? By mirroring it with something that produces a similar state. And then we have to ask ourselves the question, what is it that can produce a state like that? And what is that state? First symptom of that state is violence, paroxysmal violence, violence that comes in a burst. Severe paroxysmal violence. This is the first sign of the state. In this violence, the impulse to destroy oneself and the impulse to destroy something else. To bite, to scratch, to harm, to hurt. And the third sign of this state is that to which you are most loyal, that to which you are most devoted. You are going to turn against that very figure or person in the state of your rage. And you are not going to see anything. You're going to go completely crazy. What else is the sign of this state? Complete aversion to water. So what is it that can produce in nature the exact reflection of this state in the child? In homeopathy, we have an answer. And the answer is the saliva of a rabid dog. The remedy is called lycinum or hydrophobinum. It is prepared from the saliva of a rabid dog. And what's the story of a rabid dog? A dog that is completely devoted, completely loyal, suddenly turns violent and can attack its own master. And it's destructive. It's very destructive at that time. And what's the other sign of hydrophobia, as the name suggests? It's fear of water, hydrophobia. So this is the exact reflection in nature of the state of the child. It's like the state of a mad dog. So this child received the remedy lycinum or hydrophobinum in 1000 potency. 1000 potency, if you know what is potency in homeopathy, it's ultra, 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 ultra dilute. It's like one drop in a universe of water, something like that. And he received this remedy in 1M potency, and immediately, within a month, already the child started improving, and within about 6 months, his eczema was gone. We followed him up for 5 years later, and he was perfect. So that we have beautiful videos of him with the state and before and after. Wonderful. So, I'm just using this case to illustrate what is health, what is disease. Disease is a state of being inside, a state that is reflected in the mind, in the body, in the nerves. The scratching of the skin, the violence that you see in the skin is the same as the violence you see in the mind, the violence you see in the immune system, the violence you see in the nervous system. It's the same thing. So if you are able to find the exact match for that kind of state by something outside, you mirror it, healing can happen in a very subtle, unconscious, and a very quick way. The challenge, of course, is to find that match, to find that remedy, because in homeopathy you have 2000 remedies, and we have to find the nearest match for the state of the person in front of us. And if we are able to do that, the results are beautiful, 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 beautiful. Every day in my clinic, people come and thank me. Our child has been having so many. Every week we go to the modern medical doctor for cold and cough and breathing. And last 6 months with homeopathy, nothing at all. He's so fine. And when that healing happens, it happens at all those levels, at the level of mind, the body, the immune system, the pathology. So health and disease and healing is holistic. It happens all over. And even symptoms the patients may not have even told us get better with that remedy. So I think that's exactly what I wanted to convey, that practicing homeopathy has been a godsend for me. I love it. I love listening to the patients. I love understanding what the issue is beneath what they say. We are not psychotherapists. We don't like to analyze. As I told you, stupid and lazy. We just like to listen and hear and hear and hear what's going on inside. And we like to find the exact match in the remedy. No theories here, no concepts, just matching. That's an art. It took me 35 years to silence my own mind to listen to somebody else. That's the most difficult thing on earth. Because when you listen with your mind, then you categorize people, analyze, put people into different concepts and theories. Oh, he has this complex, oh, maybe that. And you have to listen pure. And when you listen pure, you go through certain levels of listening. The first level, of course, is physical, and then comes emotional. But this emotional level is a very superficial level. I am angry, I am sad, I'm afraid, I'm anxious. But what's beneath that? What's the perception which makes you anxious? That's the next level. And beneath the level of perception is the level of actual experience. When you have fear, what is it that you experience within your system? It's not an intellectual question. It's an experiential question. And we like to put the patients through that experience. It's similar to what you do with regression. Just go into the experience. And then amazing things come out. Like somebody, when they go into the fear, go into an experience. And it's at that level that really we have to touch. Not at, don't be angry, don't be sad, don't be afraid. This is very superficial. Or don't think that somebody is after you. Don't be paranoid. This is another level. But what's the experience of the fear, of the paranoia, whatever it is? It's something that's visceral, physical, and mental at the same time. Just touching that itself is therapeutic. The patient already starts to feel better when he himself goes to that depth of experience. That's in case taking. And if you are able to match that to a remedy, the healing effect is very things that a psychotherapist can hope to achieve in 3 years, in homeopathy can be done in 3 weeks. It's so subtle and beautiful. And then, of course, we have the remedies that come out of the 3 kingdoms, the minerals, the plants, and the animals. And each kingdom has its own specific quality. In short, an animal would be competitive and have the issue of survival. Like we see in the Lycaenum case, it's me versus the other person. You did this to me, I do it to you. This is an animal quality. You versus me. And the plant quality is one of sensitivity, where you say, this affects me, and I react to it. He said that, I got very hurt, I got very upset, I got very indignated, I got very angry. And then I wanted to shout back. This is a plant quality. And the mineral quality is one of structure. I feel I have or I don't have, or I may lose something, and then I need to find it outside or prevent its loss. So in this way, we are able to perceive remedies, able to perceive people, and then find the match for that person. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. And kind of share, because many of you are studying homeopathy to some extent, right? And I wanted to share with you basically the passion and the joy of doing homeopathy and observing its effects. And it's very fulfilling, very fulfilling. Also, I do believe that homeopathy is a part of a whole spectrum of therapies, such as diet, such as meditation, such as yoga, such as exercise, such as counseling and good living habits, lifestyle. So it's not divorce, it's not, and I think it's also a part of art and music and whatever. So we use in my center in Mumbai, which is called the Other Song Academy, we use every possible holistic therapy with homeopathy as the central focus. So we have a yoga teacher, we have a whole diet clinic, we have a cooking clinic, we have a counseling center, we have meditation, and we use that in synergy, and it works beautifully. But homeopathy really goes deep and beautiful into the core of the problem. And as we can see in this case with the lysine, that the mother's history of pregnancy also has some similarity with the child state. So these patterns that we have are often inborn and deep-seated and cannot be willed away, wished away, or they cannot be just worked upon. They are far deeper and more ingrained in our very system. And a deep remedy can facilitate the healing like anything. That's about it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I have a question. When you talk about the state and trying to match the state, isn't that a person's in one state and you're just trying to find one remedy? Or is it possible that someone could be in different states at different times?
Yeah.
And we're looking for different remedies?
Absolutely. It's a very good question. In my experience, a person is not in a one state for the whole of his life. Not all the time. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, no. So we have not to get ourselves fixed upon that this person is this remedy for the whole of his life, and that's it. So we have to match what is currently there and then observe. And if the state changes, then we have to change the remedy. So I have seen cases now, I have patients who are with me for 25 or 30 years. So I have, they come to me for everything. They originally came for some problem, they were all right, and then they didn't come for 5 years, and they had some other issue. So for them, I am the primary care physician. So they are with me 25, 30 years. I know their whole life story. So I see that many of them, they needed different remedies in their life. So it's not very fixed. Yeah.
My question about understanding how specific to follow the generals, like often I'll see like a case matches really well on like mental, emotional, and maybe a little bit physical, but then I get to the generals, and those tend not to fit up very well, but yet the remedy still has a good effect.
The remedy matches at the mental level, but
I don't always see it matching at the generals, like better with heat or creates cold milk.
yeah.
What's your thought on that?
Yeah, you see, it's a very good question. Now, the thing is that very often we tend to find a match at a specific level, but not at another level. So this is something that's very relative, and you have to judge how clearly it matches. That if something matches exactly one level, it's very likely that the rest will also match. But the way I found out of it, because it's a very important question in homeopathy, the way I found out of it is that there are three things that need to match. One is the symptoms, which you say the mental symptoms, general symptoms, and so forth. The other is the genius. Genius means the general idea of the patient or of the remedy. So what kind of remedy do we need? So here may be a hysterical remedy, here is a violent, a spasmodic, a dull, a non-reactive. So what's the general idea of the case? This needs to match. And the third is the new concept that we brought in about 20 years ago, and that is the idea of kingdoms. That means, is it a plant, is it a mineral, or it is an animal experience? And if it is one, which subgroup does it belong? If it's an animal, is it a mammal, a bird, an insect, a spider, a snake? So there are specific qualities. So when we look at a patient, we can look at three sides of him. One is the symptom side, one is the general idea, and one is the experiential, the sensation or the kingdom side. And if there's a match on all three sides, then the chances that remedy would work are very, very high.
What about with young children? Like Pulsatilla has all these provings and rubrics for organs that are not developed in a child yet and things like that. Like how similar or different do you find the remedy for a child? Like it just seems like it's different for a child.
Yes, we treat a lot of children. More than 50% of the practice is children. And yes, there are symptoms that you cannot find in a child, okay, like menstrual symptoms or whatever. But you can find other symptoms. And we find the children are absolutely the best patients to treat for many reasons. One of them is that what you see is what you get. There's nothing hidden. So you have to observe the child a lot. Observation of the other people, then the generals that you get, what they eat, what they drink, how they sleep, etc. Then the mother's history of pregnancy. When you put all this information together, prescribing for the child is quite simple, even in the absence of adult symptoms. It's actually much simpler.
The question is, will you give the mother the same remedy? Because now pregnancy, she was in that state, I see. The second part.
Will I give the mother the same remedy now?
Correct.
Well, it depends on whether her state now is the same or not. Many times the mother during pregnancy has a different state. And often I wonder whether that state comes from the child within. So we cannot automatically give the mother the same remedy. We have to study the case of the mother. And then if it still matches, yes, but mostly it doesn't. So that state was restricted to the pregnancy alone.
But in your opinion, why the child maintained that state for such a long time, where the mother was able to get out of it?
Well, I already introduced that a homeopath is stupid and lazy, so I don't have any answers to the question. I told you what I saw. This is how it is. But usually, as I told you, the mother manifests a certain state during pregnancy. We don't know why. And then maybe that's due to, already the child state within is reflecting on her. I don't know if that's the answer. But the mother has another state. And normally, a person retains his state until their healing happens. It could be forever. So even in adults of 50, 60 years old, I ask about their state during childhood because that's where the state is most exposed. As an adult, you are civilized. As a child, you can, at least in India, afford to be uncivilized. You can do you can bark like a dog, and everybody will appreciate. Look how beautiful he's barking. But as an adult, if you bark, you have a problem. So that's why we go back to childhood. And we find that the remedy that was seen as evident in the childhood is still present at the age of 40, 50, and 60. I mean, you look at your own childhood, you'll see it's still within you, isn't it so? Or no? What do you think?
How many different states?
Yeah. I find I'm still the same child, though I'm well covered up, but I'm still the same. My patterns are exactly the same.
I just follow your story. You ask childhood to know
Once again?
How about the orphan or the one already have forget childhood or they don't have any much memory of childhood?
Yeah.
How you can help?
How you can help people who don't remember their childhood? Then you have to take what you know, right? We treat people in coma too, successfully. They can't say anything. So we have to depend on the observation of people who are around them. So because you see, the beauty of homeopathy is that everything is the same idea. Everything comes from the same idea. So whatever information you get, it comes from the same source. So it doesn't matter, you can look through this window or that window or this. The more windows you look through, the clearer. But if some window is shut, you can try the other one. You can't escape. That's the thing. Because we can look through every window. And we have developed a lot of techniques of case taking. Basically, if you want to know, I can just enumerate the different windows we look at. One is the childhood. One is the fears. Then the dreams. Then the interests and the hobbies. Then the occupation. Then the relationship. And then the crisis moments and what's the experience during crisis. And if the patient doesn't have a crisis, we create a crisis for them so that we can keep them waiting in the waiting room for 3 hours and really get them really aggravated, and then please tell me what you're experiencing at this moment. Huh? I'm just joking. But these are the different windows through which we can get a glimpse of the state within. Then it comes out. Otherwise, in a normal state, it's quite, compensated for. Huh? We look all normal at this moment, right? We are all looking good, no? But do you know that some of us here are snakes, and some of us here are scorpions, and some of us here are coconut trees, and some of us here are iron, platinum? Yeah, you never know.
So you talk about you can.
When you talk to them and take them into a deeper experience, that's the technique of case taking. It's the idea of listening and guiding and going with them into the deeper experience. How does that feel? What happens to you then? What's the experience at that moment? And then waiting and listening. This is the art. It's a very meditative moment when you are with a patient, because you go into a silence. You have to. And the patient goes into a silence, and from that silence comes the awareness of what's going on. It's really a magical moment. Mm-hmm.
That kind of goes into my question is, you're talking about taking them through an experience. I'm wondering from what you've experienced and going through their, I guess, biggest disease or their biggest concern, like the thing that aggravates them most. Would that experience be more helpful than going through other experiences?
Wonderful, yeah, absolutely. Whichever aggravates them the most is a very, very good moment to go deeper into that, right? So, in general, the idea is that stress is not from the outside, but it's the way you perceive and react to it, right? So we think that this person is a problem for me, or this situation is a problem. That problem doesn't exist there. It exists inside. It's how you perceive it, right? So at the moment of crisis, this perception becomes clear. So you can use, homeopathic case taking as well as in a meditative way, you can use a crisis situation to know what's going on within you. That's wonderful. What you said is perfect.
The example that you gave, the eczema case,
Yeah.
you give 3 characteristics why you thought along the lines of medicine.
Right.
About the paroxysms of violence.
Right.
And destroying what you cherish as a problem.
Right.
Does the presenting symptom of eczema, the weak eczema, and all that, does it show the picture of character, or you just chose a bit of history?
Yeah, actually, you asked a very good question, whether the picture of eczema is a part of the remedy. In fact, it is not known to be. Because when I open the book called the repertory, which gives all the remedies of eczema, lysine is not even given there. And that's a very, very important lesson that we can learn, that we have to treat the state, and if we treat the state, the disease automatically goes away. So the idea in homeopathy is not to look for a remedy for the eczema, but to look for a remedy that is having the state within. So this case was a milestone case for me, because then I understood that it's the person you have to treat and not his skin. And that's why he had been to at least 10 homeopaths before me, and he hadn't received lysine because it was not listed in the eczema remedies. So he got graphites and sulfur and sorinum and mesarium and whatnot, but not lysine. So from that time I learned to focus on the state and not on the pathology. Yeah.
What makes you decide, though, what is the state?
Again?
What makes you decide what is the state versus the pathology?
Yeah, the symptom. Yes. What makes me decide what is the state and what is the pathology? Basically, the common symptoms of the pathology belong to the pathology. The individualizing symptoms of the pathology belongs to the state. The state is what is individual. The pathology is what is common, right? There are hundreds of cases of asthma, right? So if a patient says, I have breathlessness, I cannot breathe out, dust aggravates me, change of weather, I have to sit up, it's more at night. These are all belonging to asthma. They're common symptoms. But if the patient says, whenever somebody comes and humiliates me, then I get breathless. This is a specific sensitivity of this individual. That belongs to the state. So basically in homeopathy, as Hahnemann, the founder, said, you have to give importance to the individualizing symptoms. The symptoms that differentiate this person from everybody else. And that's what belongs to the state. And what's common to the pathology is what is not individual, basically. Otherwise, you would be giving the same remedy in every case of asthma because the symptoms are the same. So you have to see what's different. What's his specifics? Where did this one start? And each one will have a story. This was my starting point. This triggered me on. That sensitivity differs from one to the other. It's so beautiful. And the art of case taking is really, the art of how to perceive what's beyond, what's beyond, what's beyond. I had a patient yesterday. He said to me, he said, I'm writing a biography of my father, who is a famous man. When I'm writing this biography, I remember that my father said that I had been in India during the wartime, Second World War, and I was a soldier at that time. And he said, my father's dead. And I started to research his life. And every detail of his life I noted. And I tell you, it's not possible that he went to India at the wartime. Was he bullshitting me? I said, why is it important for you to know that? Okay, he was bullshitting you. No. He said, I have to know whether he was bullshitting me or not bullshitting me. I'm obsessed with this idea. I'm doing more and more research to find out. Now, this is very interesting for me. This is individual, right? When I look at myself, I don't care if my father was bullshitting me or not. That's his business. I have no interest to find out. No interest at all. Okay, he was bullshitting. Okay, no problem. No. What does it do to you? So I get confused. He said it so exactly, and yet I can't find the validation for that. What is this? I'm confused. I said, what does this confusion do to you? He said, I cannot live in confusion. It has to be clear. Everything has to be clear. What do you mean by that? Everything has to be clear. What happens if it's not clear? So this is a very interesting story. Then I said, tell me, what are your fears? He says, when I lie down in the bed at night and the door to a closet or a door to a other room is open and it's dark beyond that and I cannot see what is there, I get really scared and I need to shut it. So what do you experience? He says it's unknown, it's unclear, I don't know what is there, I cannot stand that which I don't know. It was the same story. So what happens when you don't know? What happens? It's unclear. Then he says, I feel very unsafe. How does that unsafe feel? That unsafe feels like I'm exposed, like there's no cover, no protection on me. What's a cover or a protection? It's like a blanket that surrounds me, makes me warm. And then he goes back into here, almost regression into a fetal life. I feel I want something around me, covering me, protecting me from the unknown. I cannot. So beautiful. And that's his whole life story, you know. His whole life revolves around this field. Everything in his life is dominated by this. And he has a problem in his life, pathology, by which, and what does that problem do to you? Keep everybody away. I'm alone, I'm isolated, there's a barrier. What is your dream? Because my dream is there is a wall and I'm climbing the wall and looking and there's a rhinoceros sitting on the other side. I cannot cross that wall. What's your other dream? My other dream is there's a room and there are many doors. I open the door and there is the enemy territory. I cannot go there. So this kind of looking at everything together and coming to that idea and then finding the match, that's the art.
What was the remedy?
A remedy for him, carbo-vegetabilis, which is reflecting or matching fetal life. Carbo-vegetabilis, carbon, basically. Vegetable carbon. Good?
Yeah, okay. So,
Yeah. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.